Why are you shuttering a department that's supposed to lift up those children?
Because those programs don't have to flow through the Department of Education, and they
can flow through the state. I was a state legislator. That's called shift and shaft. I've spoken with the governor of Pennsylvania. They can't pick up the tab anymore for education of our students. Not to mention, it would be inequitable by state, by state, by state. Why are you in this job at all? If you don't have a dedication to the future of our children, why are you in this job?
I, too, am a mother and a grandmother, and I want the best for my family going forward.
Vouchers.
For my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren, and I hope to leave a legacy that we have established best practices for education that all the states can use. That would be a great legacy to be able to leave, to be able to show states these are some of the things that they can do. I think states have to look at their budgets.
Madam Secretary, the legacy you will be leaving is that I shut down the Department of Education. How we educate our children determines not just their future, but our own. But I think it's a sad legacy you will leave. I yield back.
Do you know the number of people that you've had to reinstate of those fired?
It's about 74.
About 74. So how did that happen? Because, I've been an employer for 37 years. The dumbest thing I could possibly do is fire someone just to rehire them, right? Because you've given them no job security. It's like beyond stupid, right? Not saying that because you didn't do it. Clearly, it sounds like this is from Elon Musk. But how did that happen that people got fired and no one thought of you might need them in your department?
Some of that did happen when I returned.
Okay.
Now, I was in the private sector. I have done restructuring in firms, and it's painful to do that.
Yeah. But
And
fire people to rehire them?
Well, here's the thing.
Like, usually that's not a strategy.
When you are restructuring in a company, you hope that you're just cutting fat. Sometimes you cut a little in the muscle, and you realize it as you're continuing with your programs, and you can bring people back to do that.
Yeah.
So
Or
that's
you
what
can
we
plan
did.
ahead and not fire people to rehire them, right? That would be another strategy that I think is more often used. Would you agree?
Well, I'm saying that I have been on both sides of that coin, and I found them both to be effective.
Okay, interesting. We have a different perspective on that, but maybe the world of all-star wrestling is different than my world of business to business. You talked about, and I agree with you, about contracts enriching private contractors at public expense. Does Elon Musk have any contracts with the Department of Education?
Listen, first of all, I just
It's a simple question, please. This is my time. I have 38 seconds, please,
Well,
Madam
I don't
Secretary.
know if he does or not.
You don't know if Elon Musk has any contracts in your department, and you've met with him multiple times?
Elon Musk doesn't have contracts in my department.
So, Department of Education, there are no contracts with any Elon Musk company. That's what I'm asking.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. You want to check a blue card real quick, or are you pretty sure of that?
I said not to my knowledge.
Okay.
If I find out differently, I'll be happy to get back to you.
All right. And just in the last few seconds I have, just real quick on private schools getting public dollars, just so you know, something like 3/4 of the students that wind up going to those schools already attend those schools, and they're getting tax money. So if we get rid of the Department of Education, should we put the private voucher program under Ways and Means because it's really more of a tax benefit than an education benefit?
Well, I'm happy to get back to you on that as to how we restructure the Department of Education going forward and how those programs are handled.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
You're welcome.
Again, considering the environment in which this president continues to foster about who's important and who's not. Yes or no?
Congresswoman, there are laws on the books in Title VI that totally...
Laws don't mean anything to this administration. I'm asking you do you realize that to send authority back to the states, to eliminate your oversight, to eliminate your accountability, to eliminate your determination as to resources going to schools that are teaching, public schools that are teaching underserved communities. This will result in the very reason that we had to get the involvement of the federal government in this issue. And that's a yes or a no. Either you believe
it isn't a yes or no, but I will not respond to any question based on the theory that this administration doesn't care anything about the law and operates outside it. So
this
that is a mischaracterization, and I won't respond.
I'll reclaim my time for 5 seconds because you can say anything you want. Your rhetoric means nothing to me. What means something to me is the actions of this administration, from the President of the United States conducting himself in a corrupt manner to his family, enriching him and himself corruptly, to determine that this administration can tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's lawful, what's not, that it can arrest judges, it can arrest lawyers, it can use its power to bully people. And I'm telling you, the Department of Education is one of the most important departments in this country. And you should feel shameful to be engaged with an administration that doesn't give a
Linda McMahon was handed a position that she is completely unqualified for, purely because she's one of Donald Trump's most loyal donors, and, of course, because Trump has always loved professional wrestling, something I hate having in common with him. Despite being wholly unqualified for the job, like the rest of his lackeys throughout the administration, she pushes his agenda with a combination of zero shame and absolute loyalty.
Congress appropriates the money that is going through Title I, through IDEA programs.
What's that stand for?
You know what? I'm not sure I can tell you exactly what it stands for, except that it's the Programs for Disabled and Needs.
Individuals with Disabilities Act, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know all my acronyms. I've been here for 30 years.
This is my fifth day on the job, and I'm really trying to learn them very quickly.
Right.
I think it was a letter or a report that I heard this morning. I wish I could remember the source, but that there is a school system that's going to start making sure that first graders or even pre-Ks have A1 teaching, every year starting, that far down in the grades. And that's a wonderful thing. Kids are sponges. They just absorb everything. And so it wasn't all that long ago that we're going to have internet in our schools. Woo! Now, okay, let's see A1 and how can that be helpful? How can it be helpful in one-on-one instruction? How can it be helpful in absorbing, more information for those fast learners?
In a move that surprised absolutely no one, Donald Trump signed an executive order on the 20th of March to start dismantling the Department of Education, calling on Congress to just go ahead and scrap the entire thing. The department, which was created back in 1980 under President Jimmy Carter, has long been in Trump's crosshairs. And as both a candidate and now as president, he's made it clear that gutting public education is part of the plan. Over the past couple of months, the White House has pumped out a stream of reckless, destructive, and in some cases flat-out illegal directives aimed at destabilizing public schools and going after the students who rely on them the most. That includes slashing critical funding, pushing a national school voucher scheme, giving private charter schools more cash and at the same time less oversight, and even signing off on ICE raids targeting public schools. For all the hollow talk about school choice and failing public schools, the agenda could not be any clearer. Take a wrecking ball to public education to free up money for billionaire tax cuts, and if that hurts millions of low-income students along the way, so be it. The reality is that 90% of students in the US and 95% of students with disabilities attend public schools. These schools rely on the programs and protections run through the Department of Education. Eliminating the department means fewer resources for vulnerable students, bigger class sizes, fewer special education services, and weaker civil rights protections across the board and around the country. Republicans like to talk about failing public schools, but never mention why schools are struggling to support their students. Education funding in this country is a mess and has been for a long time. It already leans heavily on state and local dollars, especially property taxes, which means that unevenness in the playing field is baked into the system. The federal government contributes a much smaller amount than is necessary, obviously, to make the system do what it needs to, and what funding there is varies wildly from state to state. The end result, high poverty districts end up with less money per student than wealthier ones. You don't help students by making the situation even worse by then totally eliminating that federal funding.